As the days get longer and the sun burns hotter, after multiple twists and turns and months of delays, the page is finally turned to a new chapter of the NWBA. For the first time in a long time, something impactful has actually happened in OU. What's the new rule that's going to change the landscape of the NWBA forever? 10 veterans looking for championship glory, 5 newcomers trying to write their own story. Hold on to your hats and check those stats. The Season 8 premiere of Wonder Room starts now. Hello everyone and welcome to the Season 8 premiere of NWBA Wonder Room. I'm your host, King Vasser. It's been 505 days since we last met, and as you might have expected, quite a few things have changed since the end of Season 7, so there's a lot we'll get into today. Obviously, the players that are going to be playing in Season 8 are going to get introduced. We're going to talk about which mons have moved back and forth. Should be a lot of fun. But first things first, we have to talk about a new rule that's been introduced to OU in Showdown that's going to have very big ramifications on what Tera captains are going to look like heading into Season 8. So, in early April of 2026, it was announced that Tera Blast would be suspect tested in Scarlet and Violet OU. Obviously, Tera has a very contentious history. Some people believe it is a broken mechanic. Other people think that the mechanic is just too cool to think about getting rid of entirely in the metagame. But if nothing else, we could at least do our due diligence and try to see if individual aspects of it are broken. And to the surprise of many people, Tera Blast was very narrowly voted to be a little bit too broken for OU and was thus banned from Scarlet and Violet. This obviously has huge ramifications over the metagame, but especially in the NWBA landscape, which prioritizes lower tier Tera captains so much more. So what does this all mean for the NWBA in Season 8? Well, it means quite a lot, really. First of all, there's no free type coverage for a lot of Pokemon. You can't just terrestrialize into a different type and then put it on Tera Blast and call it a day. You have to actually hit mons with the moves that you already have. This is especially impactful for electric types. Obviously, Bolt Beam is a tried and true tactic. Tera Ice was very important for a lot of mons like Raikou and Rotom Heat and Thunder's Therian in prior seasons. Porygon Z is another Pokemon that's very heavily impacted by this. We saw this a lot last season. Black City used Tera Fire and Tera Ghost a lot, and so now Porygon loses out on free adaptability Tera Blast. This increases the value of defensive Teras. You're going to see a lot more Tera Fairy, Tera Steel, Tera Water. Obviously, any type can be used defensively, but you're going to see a lot more usage from defensive types because of how much more important defensive Teras are actually going to be. It also means that mons that already have natural strong coverage options are going to be a lot more valuable too. We saw last season a lot of different Pokemon utilize Tera Normal on moves that are already strong like Extreme Speed and Boom Burst to really maximize their ability to Tera. So you're going to see a lot more of that. Mons that have coverage options like Shadow Ball or Surf or other moves that are just naturally strong are going to be a lot more impactful. Tera Stellar's basically dead at this point. We haven't seen it used in the NWBA yet up to Season 8, and now with Tera Blast being gone, whatever niche it did have in the past is basically completely dead. There was a world where maybe if you spec into an Amorous Eye or Serperior, even though those were expensive, they could utilize Contrary with Tera Blast to set up and sweep. Now at this point, Tera Stellar is basically completely useless. So long story short, we're going to see a lot more defensive Teras. Fairy was already one of the most popular types. At this point, it might be on like half the mons in the league. I don't know. Like at this point, we've seen how good Tera Steel and Tera Fairy are, so expect a lot more of that. But one thing's for certain, defensive Teras are going to be a lot more commonplace, and the ones that can't actually afford to use their Tera offensively are going to be that much more valuable. Alright, now let's get into the fun stuff. It's time to talk about which Pokemon have either gone up or down tiers between Season 7 and Season 8. 84 different Pokemon moved around, which is the most in league history from season to season. So the landscape of the league is going to look a lot different as far as the talent is concerned. First things first, we'll start with mons that are going to be banned in Season 8 due to being sent to Ubers. And it should come to no surprise that Roaring Moon is the mon on that list. We've seen this mon banned mid-season multiple times in the Gen 9 era, and it's not hard to see why. Last season was drafted in the first round by the Chichester Charizards, put up 25 KOs and 41 points in 20 games played. In its 3 seasons in the NWBA, it's put up 71 KOs and 112 points in 75 games played, and has been selected to the All-Star team twice. Roaring Moon, typically considered one of the best offensive sweepers in Scarlet and Violet. It's been banned more than almost any other mon in the Gen 9 era of the NWBA, so it should come to no surprise that the so-called Salamence Prime will not be seeing the field in this upcoming season. So with the big one out of the way, we move on to tier promotions mons that will be legal in Season 8 that jumped up in tier from Season 7 to now. 6 mons made the jump to OU, 5 of them coming from UU, and 1 of them coming from RU, that being Wheezing G. Very surprising, the mon jumped 2 whole tiers. It's also something very rare to see from a mostly defensive Pokemon put up negative points last season, due to the fact that it's only really here to be disruptive and annoy offensive threats, but Wheezing G is still a very solid defensive Pokemon in its own right. That's why it made the jump in the first place. As for our 5 normal jumpers, Ogerpon base form, going from UU to OU, put up 24 points last season, pretty solid offensive mon for Chichester. Pekarunt put up 32 points for Sicily, which is a bit surprising for a more defensive Pokemon, but Pekarunt, one of the most annoying mons in the format, makes the jump. Tornadus Therian, a mon that has a very long-standing history in OU, tends to pivot back and forth. For Season 8, it will be in OU. Another mon that was employed by Chichester last season, put up 32 points in 30 games played. The Eternal T-Tar finally making its climb all the way back to OU, making this the now 8th straight generation in which T-Tar in some way, shape, or form has been in OU, because it's the fucking GOAT. Even though it only put up 11 points last season, but it was mostly used as a sand setter for Heart Home, so still one of the best mons in the format if you're trying to run a sand team, no doubt about it, and still a very strong Pokemon to this day. And then finally you have Zapdos, which had arguably its best season to date in NBA history, put up 44 points in 44 games played. For the Milotics last season was very, very crucial to their rain offense, so another Pokemon that can play both sides of the ball. And one of the big reasons why Zapdos, another mon that has been in OU for a long time, makes the climb back up in Season 8. Now, for the sake of breaking up each section, because there are so many mons that moved up in tier between Season 7 and 8, and we want to give every mon the individual attention they deserve and also not have 1,700 mons on the screen at once, we're breaking things down into mons that rose to the tier proper and mons that rose to the BL tier below it, because as you all know, if you count as a BL mon, you count as a tier above. So all the mons you see on the screen right now moved up to UUBL, which functionally makes them OU Pokemon. We'll start with Ogerpon Cornerstone, put up 77 points, was an MVP candidate, had a phenomenal season with the Milotics. It also means that every legal form of Ogerpon now counts for OU, which is very exciting to see. It's nice to see that after so many years, this mon is actually just that good all the way around between all its forms. The other mon rising up to UBL is Kukwavo, who had pretty much the opposite season, only played 5 games, didn't even register neutral points, it actually went into the negative, but that mon did put up a very good season back in Season 5. We know that this is still a very good sweeper. It might just take a little bit more potting than it did in the past for this mon to see its success that it used to. Hoopon Bound, Poltegeist, and Zarude are all mons that moved up from RUBL into UUBL, so not only did they move into UU, they were considered too strong for UU. Hoop Unbound, just 6 games played, 3 points for the Mount Coronet Kings. but it was a pretty important part of the Season 6 Kyurem's Legacy team that almost went down in history as the greatest team in NWBA history. Poltergeist, we know what this mon has done in the past, a premier part of the Season 1 champion Friesenton Chronolekki's team. As a matter of fact, it was the original record holder before Titan broke to all the relevant points records last season. 14 games played, 12 points for the Kings last season. So again, a mon that has definitely seen its best days, but still under the right hands and under the right direction can still be a very threatening offensive mon. And then Zarude, 20 games played, 32 points for the National City Clan Pros last season. Still a pretty solid offensive mon, and it took a while for this mon to really get going. It was all the way down in RU to start in the Gen 9 era, but now it finds its way up to UUBL. Lastly, we have Okie Dokie, which was just a proper RU mon last season that has now moved all the way up into UUBL thanks to its Toxic Chain ability. 18 games played, just 10 points for the Hard Home Heaters. Not nearly as strong of a season as they had back in Season 6, but once again, still a very solid mon, very good bulk, can do a lot of different things. It can be very annoying to deal with. Moving on to the mons that have moved up to the UU tier, we've got a nice balance of heavy hitters and very annoying defensive mons. We start with Conkeldurr, put up 23 points in 17 games played last season for the Ambertown Auroras. Conkeldurr, of course, one of the more annoying offensive threats to fight due to how strong its guts boosted moves are and the opportunity to potentially mix it up and run Iron Fist. Pheasantipity put up 31 points in 34 games played, even as a primarily defensive Pokemon for Mistral and Metagross. Again, that Toxic Chain ability really can never be underestimated as far as dealing with potential nuisances. Hippowdon, 23 games played, 24 assists for the Black City Pawnyards. We're talking about a mon that has put up more assists in the Gen 9 era than any other mon, and might potentially be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Of course, we're going to have to see a nice performance from Hippo in Season 8, but this has been one of the best defensive mons in the Gen 9 era of the NWBA. Slitherwing moves up to UU, 35 games played, 37 KOs, 55 points. That's multiple 50-plus point seasons out of the old Volcarona. Another mon that could potentially be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Reverboom, a mon that we didn't actually see in Season 7. We only saw it in Season 6 for the Turnback Renegades. 24 points in 25 games played. So its future prospects don't necessarily bode well. You'd hate to see a mon not get play in a season and then have to move up in tier in the season after. But the fact that Reverboom is up in UU lets you know that this is still a very solid offensive mon. It's just going to take the right operator to bring out the best of it. Mew, the ultimate wild card, moved up from NUBL up to UU. Only 6 games played and still managed to put up 10 points last season for the Sirchester Charizards. When you have just about every move in the book at your disposal, of course you're going to be a good Pokemon, and Mew, who was all the way down in NU in Season 6, has managed to find its way all the way up in UU in Season 8. And then perhaps the biggest surprising riser going from Season 7 to Season 8 is Talonflame, who moves all the way up from NU to UU, just because Flame Body is that annoying of an ability to deal with. Only 2 points scored in 14 games played last season for the Bilotics, but again, we've seen what Talonflame can do. We know how annoying this mon can be, and that is the biggest reason it finds its way all the way up in UU heading into Season 8. As we get into the mons that move up into RUBL, you'll notice that all these mons are Pokemon that are really, really threatening setup sweepers. Those are the mons that typically get elevated from a standard tier to the BL tier above it in the first place. Mons that are just too strong offensively to deal with one way or another. Starting with Armarouge. Only 8 games played and 5 points for the Human Swim team last season, but it did play an important part in the Season 8 NWBA Championship. That's why it has a ring in the first place. Thunderous Eye, 16 games played, 12 points for Sicily last season. You've also got Volcanion, 19 games played, just 5 points for the Bielstone Valiants, but Volcanion has a storied history as one of the quote-unquote hidden bosses of the game. One of the mons that's really, really hard to deal with more often than not. So don't let those numbers from last season fool you. This is still a very threatening mon. You've also got Zoroark H, who did not actually play in the regular season last season, was rostered by Black City Poniards by season's end, but never really saw the field. Obviously, Zoroark H, a very difficult mon to use thanks to its illusion ability, but when under the right owner and under the right circumstances can be extremely frustrating to deal with. Both Gyarados and Lilligant H moved up from NUBL. Gyarados putting up 36 points for the Nakuin City Clamp Rolls last season in 22 games, and Lilligant H, which once upon a time was actually UBL, 10 points in 6 games played for the Sirchester Charizards. Then you've got Mienshao, who moved all the way up from NU, putting up 29 points in 30 games played last season for the Human Swim Team. And then another one of the most surprising risers between Season 7 and 8, you've got Oricorio Pom Pom, played just 2 games, still managed to rack up 2 KOs and 2 points in those 2 games, but finished as a free agent, and for good reason. Oricorio Pom Pom can be very good as a Tera captain, because it literally has a built-in move that's better than Tera Blast itself from Revelation Dance, but at the same time, when there are 4 Oricorios and they all kind of do the same thing, it's not really justifiable to have an Oricorio that's higher than PU on your roster. So Oricorio Pom Pom is probably going to struggle to find roster time next season, but if you really need a setup sweeper in UU, it's there. As we move on to the mons that moved up to RU, you're going to notice a lot more defensive Pokemon making the rise here, but we're going to start with Breloom, another very strong offensive Pokemon. Just 11 games played, just 5 points last season for Nakuin City, but we've seen this mon put in a lot of work, specifically in Season 5. Diancie, who is normally a very consistent double-double mon, 18 games played, just 9 KOs and 6 assists on 8 points last season, also played for Nakuin City. Alolan Muck, 17 games played, 16 KOs, 25 points for Slithering Sicily in Season 7. Porygon Z, 23 games played, 22 KOs, 30 points for Black City Poniards. Again, even with the Tera Blast Ban, that is still a mon with base 130 special attack and adaptability, so still a very strong Pokemon in its own right. Quagsire, one of those mons that kind of just goes all over the place. Really depends on how messed up the metagame is at any given point in time. 20 games played, just 6 points for the Valiants last season. Registeel moving up, just 3 games played, -1 point as a free agent. It's lost a lot of the moves that made it very good back in Gen 8, but still good enough to find itself in RU in Generation 9 due to its defensive prowess and its good typing. Torterra moving up, 20 games played, 18 KOs, 31 points. It's crazy what Shell Smash can do for a mon. Was pretty damn good for the Not Cornet Kings in the games that it did play, and for good reason, because what are you going to do when the mon Shell Smashes in front of you and all of a sudden you're staring at +2/+2/+2? Umbreon, maybe the most surprising 50-point mon in NWBA history, 32 games played, 33 KOs and 11 assists last season for the Mistral and Metagross, also finds its way moving up into RU. And then you've got Gastrodon and Toxtricity, who were both ones that were in the PU back in Season 7. Gastrodon, 29 games played, 11 KOs, 18 assists, 21 points for Ambert Town. And then Toxtricity, one of the most, why the hell are you in PU in the first place mons we've seen in quite some time. 24 games played, 31 KOs, 47 points for the Core Workers, and a big reason they managed to make that push all the way to the end of the championship. Only 5 mons made the jump up to NUBL from last season. We start with the elephant, or more appropriately, the whale in the room. Sid Titan was PUBL last season, and all it did was put together the greatest single season in NWBA history. Aleph commandeered it to 101 KOs and 181 points in 46 games played. Like, there's no exaggeration, this mon had the single greatest season in NWBA history last season, by a country mile even, and I'm sure a lot of people are happy to see that this thing is at the very least going to move up a whole tier following that type of devastation. Cresselia was NU properly last season, put up 31 KOs and 38 points in 40 games played for the Kitakami Slashers as a Tera captain. Iron Thorns, also part of NU last season, 23 games played, 31 KOs, 57 points in an all-star appearance for the Sirchester Charizards, was very good as a Tera captain, and so was Oricorio Sensu, who actually was below PU last season, and yet still managed to put together 26 points in just 8 games played, was the KDA leader in Season 7 for the Sir Chester Charizards. And then last but not least, No, this has to be a fucking mistake. There's actually no goddamn way. Let me check my notes. No. I was trolling, or Showdown is trolling. There's just no way that this Mon went all the way up to... Are you fucking... Wacky? A Mon that we literally have not seen since Season 1, and for good reason, because we're talking about a middle stage starter Pokemon, and in its Season 1 appearances, it put together just 1 point in 12 games played for these Snow Point City Glacier Boys. But hey, if you really need a grassy terrain setter and you missed out on Rillaboom, you could chuck an or you pick a Blackie if you really wanted to, but please don't. I'm begging you, please don't make me do this. Please don't make me do this. I'm begging you. And finally, we've got the Mons that have moved up to NU, in which there are 24 total, so a pretty much complete overhaul of the tier, and as a result, there's so many Mons that we don't really have the time to break them all down, so we're just going to rattle them off, but we are going to point out the notable ones, starting with Arcanine, a very good Terra Captain and former All-Star, Articuno G, Bellabolt, Braviary, Bronzong, Copperajah, Decidueye, the Dunsparce, Duraludon, a former NWBA champion, Flamigo, Gligar, Goodra, also a former NWBA champion and All-Star, Goofy, Heracross, Houndstone, Kilowattrel, Meloetta, Scrafty, Screamtail, Scyther, Staraptor, former All-Star Tauros, Paldean Aqua, Tornadus Eye, and Yuxi. And so now we move on to tier Demotions, Mons that went down a tier or multiple between Season 7 and 8. And we start with a huge one, Regieleki actually dropping from Ubers, the big reason being that because Tera Blast got banned, it no longer gets free Bolt Beam coverage, and as a result, it's just not strong enough to be too much for OU. As a matter of fact, this Mon is probably going to drop even lower, but for the time being, it will reside in OU for Season 8. The last time we saw it was Season 4, back in the Gen 8 era, where it finished up as a free agent. 6 games played, 6 KOs, 6 points. Overall, Regieleki hasn't been the most dominant or threatening Mon ever, but this is a Mon that does have an All-Star appearance, and more interestingly, has been a part of 3 NWBA championships. So this is a Mon that might be more of a good luck charm than anything, but it's a pretty damn good one, on top of being, you know, the fastest Mon in the history of Pokemon. We've got a trio of underperformers dropping down from OU into UU, starting with Clodsire. 18 games played, 7 KOs, 6 assists, 5 points for the Heaters last season. In Season 6, this was a 2020 Club Mon, so to see it putting up 7, 6, and 5 is in fact a downgrade, even if this is a mostly defensive Pokemon. Skarmory putting up 15 KOs and 15 assists in 39 games played for the Sparks doesn't seem all that bad, and then you realize that this Mon has the dubious honor of being the first Mon in NWBA history to have more deaths than games played, thanks to some Revival Blessing shenanigans in Season 7. So yeah, Skarmory's performance was nowhere near as good as that KO assist line would make you believe. And then lastly, you've got Weavile. 25 games played for the Slashers last season, 10 KOs, just 1 point. This is a Mon that was a Hall of Famer in the Gen 8 era game in BA. So to see Weavile slumping so hard in Gen 9, it really makes you wonder. Hopefully this Mon dropping down a tier will help in that regard. We've got another trio of Mons falling down into RU. We're going to start with Blissey, who dropped all the way from OU, so that's 2 full tiers that dropped down. 13 games played, 5 KOs, and just 3 points for Nacrane City. Makes sense, Blissey's one of the most passive Pokemon around, but even still, you want to get a little bit more value out of your defensive OU pick. Then you've got Comfey dropping down from UU. Basically the same stat line as Blissey. Comfey a more interesting case because it was all the way up in UU in the first place because of its Tera Blast Calm mindset. Now with Tera Blast banned, Comfey is nowhere near as threatening. And then you've got Rabombi. 32 games played, 7 KOs, negative 12 points for the Slashers. This Mon's job was to set up webs and then immediately die about it. Which is crazy when you consider that Rabombi has a very good speed tier. It has a usable special attack stat, and it has Quiver Dance. This is a Mon that can get things done offensively, but because its best role is being the fastest web setter in the meta, that's all it's really done for the last few seasons. So hopefully this thing dropping down into RU and making it to where it can be decent cost Tera Captain might change its fortunes a little bit, but it's going to require someone to actually go out of their way to do so. On to the mons that have dropped down to NU. We start with Rhyperior, which was actually in UU in Season 7, and put together a very, very lackluster season. 6 games played, 3 KOs, 3 points for the Veilstone Valiants. Makes sense, this is a mon that really didn't have any business being up in UU in the first place, so now it drops back down to NU, closer to where it actually belongs. Next up, we've got Chansey dropping down from RU, 8 games played, 4 KOs, 17 assists, 19 points, put together one of the greatest playoff runs we've seen in NWBA history, leading the Himalaya swim team to a championship. Then we got Overcoil, 30 games played, 20 KOs, 21 assists, 41 points. So this was a 2020 club member for the New Moon Dark Rise that ended up going down a tier. So that appears to be a mon that's going to present a lot of great value for people looking through the lower tiers. And then you've got Reuniclus, 13 games played, 8 KOs, 3 assists, 10 points for the Mount Coronet Kings last season. But this is a mon that has a pretty damn good track record in NWBA history, so that's another mon that looks to present some pretty good value for people trying to secure a mid-round talent. Finally, we've got the mons that have dropped down all the way down to PU, and we will start with the 2 big ones. Alolan Ninetales, 32 games played, 11 KOs, 3 assists, -1 point for Little Low Kicks last season. This was a mon that was in UU in Season 7. And to get a mon that can set up Aurora Veil pretty much for free is absolutely massive, both for hyper offense teams and for people who are crazy enough to try to run snow straight up. You've also got Torkoal, 30 games played, 3 KOs, 22 assists, -1 point for the Curl Ray Workers last season. It cannot be understated how valuable Torkoal is for some teams. Now that it has dropped all the way down to PU, you no longer have to spend a high value pick to set up the Sun. You can go all in on getting your Sun up users early and then take Torkoal somewhere in the mid to late rounds and have a even more functional Sun team than we've seen in league history. Elsewhere, you've got Amoonguss, 4 games played, just 3 points, unrostered last season. This mon has continued to tumble since the ban of sleep moves and now finds itself all the way down to PU. Galvantula, 21 games played, -3 points, another web setter. It's a pretty solid option, but again, mons that only really set webs and don't really do anything else of note kind of shouldn't be in tiers above PU. You also got Typhlosion H, 13 games played, 8 KOs, 9 points, also finished unrostered. Solid special attacker, just didn't really find too much of a role on the Slashers last season, that's why it finished unrostered. And then lastly, you've got Vileplume, interesting case, did not play in the regular season, but was a big part of Coral Way's run to the NWBA final in the playoffs, so that is another low tier grass type that can be pretty useful, especially because it serves as a 1-point Tera Captain. And so we move on to our final segment of the day, and for most people, the funnest part about any NWBA season, figuring out who exactly the hell is going to be participating in Season 8. Once again, we've got our standard assortment of 16 players, so let's go ahead and meet your competitors for this upcoming NWBA season. So we're going to rattle these things off in alphabetical order, which means we start with a Z1 season of NWBA experience being Season 7, went 7-15 for a winning percentage of about 320. Was a better player than the record indicates, went to a lot of game 3s. If a few turns go AZ's way, probably be a lot closer to 500, maybe even having a winning record last season. So it's nice to see AZ return for a second season, especially because this was somebody who didn't even initially get into the league from the usual means of knowing Dom or being part of the circle. So it's nice to see that the NWBA's reach is extending, and AZ is proof of that, and we are excited to see what he's going to do for an encore in Season 8. Next up, we've got one of the fan favorites, one of the most exciting players in NWBA history, Ball Heat, 2 seasons of NWBA experience being Seasons 6 and 7. Career winning percentage of about 580 with a record of 25, 18, and 1. This is someone we've seen a few seasons now and continues to be one of the most interesting and unexpected players in league history. Always brings something interesting to the table. It's hard to tie him down. Had a better season 6 than season 7, but this is still someone who has been into the playoffs twice and notched his first career playoff victory under his belt last season, even if it was a wild card win. So Ball Heat back for round 3. Will this be the season that he finally gets over the hump and really makes a deep playoff run? From one player in his 3rd season to another, we've got Galarian Blades, often shortened to just Blades. In his 2 prior seasons of NWBA experience, he's got a career record of 31-12-1, which leads to a winning percentage of 716, top 8 all time. So Blades has been one of the most experienced and flat out best players to ever enter the NWBA, as evidenced by that custom avatar he's rocking for season 8. He's been very good as a player, he's been very good as a coach, and he's probably thinking, third time's got to be the charm, right? He sure is on the short list of championship contenders. You cannot, under any circumstance, write off the pest from across the pond. Our first newcomer for season 8 is Cherry, a good friend of Incogs and someone who has a lot of draft league experience according to our experts. Played in a lot of Wi-Fi leagues, has won a lot of Wi-Fi leagues. So while the NWBA is typically very inhospitable to new players, it seems like Cherry has the innate talent to flip that trend on its head. Can he break through in his first season in the NWBA, which does not function like most other draft leagues? Coming back around for his 4th season of the NWBA, CJ now profiles as a true veteran of the league. 3 seasons of prior experience, career record of 24-42 for a win percentage of 364. Last season was CJ's best to date, 12 wins and a playoff berth for the very first time. At the trajectory he's going, season 4 would mean that CJ would make a legitimate playoff push, right? Obviously, the games have to get played, but the way things are going, as long as his luck holds, CJ could be a real true contender in season 8. Our next newcomer is the newest player to come from the Great North. Danchi is the 5th Canadian to join the league, following in the footsteps of Kobe, Styles, Soul, and Ball Heat. The track record says that Danchi would profile as a pretty damn good player considering the resumes of his countrymen before him, a premier shitposter and someone who's gonna have eyes on him, especially in prime time where Toronto is known to feast. We will see if Danchi has what it takes to be the newest sensation to come in and take the league by storm. Next up, we've got Versago Flair, shortened to just Flair, coming back for their 3rd season in the NWBA. 12-32 record, 273 win percentage prior. Much like CJ, had a much better season 7 than season 6. Win total went from 3 to 9 and was right on the doorstep of a playoff appearance. So we've got another veteran coming into the league who's been trending up, who's looking to break into the playoffs this upcoming season. Flair's got plenty of time, as long as work doesn't completely shut down their prospects again. We're talking about another player who very well could start making a genuine playoff push in season 8. If the league were operating under the rules of prior seasons, we would even be seeing this player this season, but due to the termination of the relegation match and what it means for future seasons at the NWBA, Keith is back for a second go around. Went 3-19 last season, win percentage of 136. Started off the season decently well and they just couldn't find a way to win in the back half of the season. But second time almost always tends to be better than the first. Keith has learned a lot in his appearance, and we will see what he does in his second season now that he really has his feet wet and knows what he's getting into in this NWBA nonsense. Your reigning, defending, undisputed Season 7 champion is looking for a second ring on his resume. Kobe returns 6 prior years of NWBA experience, more than any other player in league history. Career record of 89-33-2, win percentage of 726. Has a legitimate case of being the greatest player in NWBA history, and if he can come back around and win 2 in a row, it would remove all doubt. But first things first, you gotta make it back to the mountaintop. But again, we're talking about one of the most accomplished players in league history. On a short list of championship contenders, Kobe's right at the very top. Momo joins the league as our third newcomer, a highly experienced commentator in multiple different games, decided it's finally time to get his feet wet and join into the NWBA world, has competed in a few draft leagues in the past, has an idea of what they're trying to do, knows what they want to do. So we'll see how Momo does in the NWBA world, and if their commentating skills can translate into Pokemon. This is a player that you do not want to take lightly. Yeah, hold on, let me take this. Who the hell is calling me? Hello? Yeah, I'm working on this section. I literally just got to his part and wondering why. What do you mean dropping out? No. Like, I get what you're saying, right? Like, it's happened before, but what do you mean? Like, I literally just finished that section. Well, then who the hell is going to replace him? In one of the most unforeseen sequence of events in NWBA history, the commissioner himself takes matters into his own hands and joins the league as a participant for the first time since Season 2. In his 2 seasons of prior experience, he has a win-loss record of 39-6, winning percentage of .867. That is the single highest mark in league history. We really have no idea what to say here. It's been almost 5 years since Dom's touched the field, so surely there's going to be some type of ring rust. But that being said, if he really decides to lock the hell in, and his luck holds, which it never does, but let's entertain the possibility for a second, could we see one of the greatest seasons in NWBA history? Following him, we've got another player on the very short list of championship contenders. Nico enters his 4th season as one of the all-time greats. 3 prior seasons of NWBA experience, has a career record of 53-13, good for a winning percentage of .803, one of just 4 players in NWBA history north of 800, and the only one we've seen in the past couple seasons. He's been so close to a championship, runner-up in Season 6, Final 4 in Season 7. He knows how close he is. Is this finally the season where Nico wins his long-awaited championship? We'd like to think he'd be one of the favorites. We've got yet another newcomer, although not quite the same as their fellow NWBA rookie. Salamence joins in Season 8. No prior seasons of NWBA player experience, but was AZ's coach in Season 7. It's always interesting to see somebody go straight from coaching to playing. The last time we saw this happen was Blades, and he's one of the best players we've seen the past couple seasons, so we'll see just how good Salamence is. But just because they haven't had any NWB experience thus far does not mean they can't turn some heads and make some noise in Season 8. Our final newcomer comes in the form of Absol, 0 seasons of prior NWBA experience, and also notably the only player who is listed as either having no singles experience or being a BGC player. So all signs point to this being a genuine newcomer to the draft league atmosphere. We will see if the new landscape is too much to overcome, but we've seen stranger things happen in the NWBA world. Regardless, we will welcome Absol with open arms, and we will see just how much that lack of experience matters come game time. After sitting on the sidelines the previous 2 seasons, the league's deputy commissioner makes his long-awaited return. Vasser enters his 4th season of NWBA play, career record of 42-13, winning percentage of .737. He's got a 20-win season on his resume. He's been to the NWBA finals before. He's one of just 4 GMs to make it to 3 different league Final Fours, and one of just 2 to make it 3 seasons in a row. The only thing missing on Vasser's resume is an NWBA championship. Will this be the season he finally tastes gold, or will all that time away from the field prove to be too much? But he's not the only veteran back from a long time away. Zedby, otherwise known as Reen, makes her return in her first appearance since Season 5. 4 prior seasons of NWBA experience, career record of 40-39-2, win percentage of .506. the most 500 player in league history up to this point. We've seen her highs be as high as making it to the Final Four of the league. Same case as Vasser. Will the few seasons away from the game prove to make her too rusty? Or is all that time sitting, biting, learning, waiting the key to making a genuine push for a championship in Season 8? Our 16th and final competitor in Season 8 is going to be Z. One prior season of NWBA experience, technically went 9-13, win percentage of 409 in Season 6, did sign up for Season 7, but dropped out early in the season due to burnout concerns. Now they've graduated from school, they've got free time on their hands, they're able to secure a coach. So we will see what Z's second full season looks like. He is a gambler, we know that much. But when everything comes up heads, Z's one of the most dangerous battlers out there for certain. All right, friends, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for watching. I've been your host, King Vasser. Coming up next, Season 8 entry draft on twitch.tv/Dom needs help. So don't go anywhere. The first domino of Season 8 is going to fall, and it's coming up next.